Seeds. There's many different kinds, aren't there? Seeds that we buy. Seeds that we sow. Tonight, I'd like to talk about 2 seeds. But first, Yohanan 8:44. You are of your father, the devil, and your will is to do your father's desire. He was a murderer, you see, from the beginning, not holding the truth, for he is a liar, the father of the lie. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, my brothers and my sisters, welcome back. Welcome back to another episode of Let There Be Light. My name's Brian, if you're new. Tonight, we're talking about seeds. Seeds of faith. The seeds of doubt. And quite possibly, a serpent seed. Now, that line in John 8:44, you are of your father the devil. Well, that has sparked quite the theory amongst the community. I'd like to discuss it. I'd like to open it up. I'd like to tear it down, build it up, if it has any credence. So, we have a lot to cover here. We are in, notes. Genesis. The Apocalypse of Mosheh. Jasher. Jubilees. We have a bit in Revelation, as well as Matthew, Luke, and John. So I hope you're well. I pray the Father's with you. Pray the Ruach is guiding you. In the name of our Messiah, Yahushuo, may you receive. So where do we begin? Let's start from the beginning. Genesis 3. And the Nahash, the serpent, was more crafty than all the lives of the field which Yahawah had made. And he said to the woman, Is it true that Elohim has said, Do not eat of every tree of the garden? And the woman said to the Nahash, We are to eat of the fruit of the trees of the garden. But the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden, Elohim has said, Do not eat of it, nor touch it, lest you die. And the Nahash said to the woman, You shall certainly not die. For Elohim knows that in the day you eat of it, your eyes shall be opened, and you shall be like Elohim, knowing good and evil. And the woman saw that the tree was good for food, that it was pleasant to the eyes, and the tree was desirable to make one wise. And she took of its fruit and ate, and she also gave to her husband with her, and he ate. Well, there's a couple of words in there that a certain sect of people have attributed different meanings to the words. But we'll get to that. Let's move forward to the Apocalypse of Mosheh, Moses. Where is it? There it is. What is it? It's 15 to 21. This is a little excerpt. The Apocalypse of Mosheh is a story of Adam and Yahawah. Some pronounce it Hua, Eve. Of their of just, this, the story of them getting kicked out of the garden. And it has a lot more content. So, then said Hua to them, "Hear, all my children and children's children, and I will relate to you how the enemy deceived us. It befell that we were guarding paradise, each of us, the portion allotted to us from Yah. Now I guarded in my lot the west and the south. But the devil went to Adam's lot, where all the male creatures were. For Yah divided the creatures. All the males he gave to your father, and all the females he gave to me. And the devil spoke to the serpent, saying, Rise up, come to me, and I will tell you a word, whereby you may have profit. And he arose and came to him. And the devil said to him, I hear that you are wiser than all the beasts. So if we turn back to Genesis 3 there. Sorry. Right in the first line. And the Nahash, the snake, the serpent, was more crafty than all the lives of the field. Okay. So moving on. I hear that you are wiser than all the beasts, and I have come to counsel you. Why do you eat of Adam's tares and not of paradise? Rise up, and we will cause him to be cast out of paradise, even as we were cast out through him. The serpent said to him, I fear lest Adonai be wroth with me. And the devil said to him, Fear not, only be my vessel, and I will speak through your mouth words to deceive him. And instantly he hung himself from the wall of paradise. And when the angels ascended to worship Yah, then Satan appeared in the form of an angel and sang hymns like the angels. And I bent over the wall and saw him, like an angel. But he said to me, Are you Hua? And I said to him, I am. What are you doing in paradise? And I said to him, Yah set us to guard and to eat of it. The devil answered through the mouth of the serpent, You do well, but you do not eat of every plant. And I said, Yea, we eat of all, save only one, which is in the midst of paradise, concerning which Yah charged us not to eat of it. For he said to us, On the day which you eat of it, you shall die. Then the serpent said to me, May Yah live, but I am grieved on your account. For I would not have you ignorant, but arise, come hither. Hearken unto me, and eat the value of that tree. Hearken to me, and eat and mind the value of that tree. Which I said to him, Fear lest Yah be wroth with me, as he told us. And he said to me, Fear not, for as soon as you eat of it, you too shall be as Yah. In that you shall know good and evil. But Yah perceived this, that ye would be like him. So he envied you, and said, Ye shall not eat of it. Nay, do you give heed to the plants, and you will see its great glory. Yet I feared to take the fruit. And he said to me, Come hither, and I will give it to you. Follow me. And I opened to him, and he walked a little way, then turned and said to me, I have changed my mind, and will not give it to you until you swear to me to give it also to your man. And I said, What sort of oath shall I swear to you? Yet what I know, I say to you, by the throne of Yahawah, and by the cherubium, and by the tree of life, I will give it to my man to eat. And when he had received the oath from me, he went and poured upon the fruit of the poison of his wickedness, which is lust, the root of the beginning of every sin. And he bent the branch on the earth, and I took of the fruit, and I ate. And in that very hour my eyes were opened, and I knew forthwith that I was bare of the righteousness which I had been clothed. And I wept, and said to him, Why have you done this to me, that you have deprived me of the glory which I was clothed? But I wept also about the oath which I had sworn. But he descended from the tree and vanished. And I began to seek in my nakedness, in my part, for leaves to hide my shame. But I found none, for as soon as I had eaten, the leaves showered down from the trees in my part, except the fig tree only. But I took leaves from it, and made for myself a girdle, and it was from the very same plant which I had eaten. And I cried out in that very hour, Alam, Adam, where are you? Rise up, come to me, and I will show you a great secret. But when your father came, I spoke to him words of transgression, which have brought us down from our great glory. For when I came, I opened my mouth, and the devil was speaking, and I began to exhort him, and said, Come hither. Adam, hearken unto me, and eat of the fruit of the tree which Yah told us not to eat, and you shall be as Elohim. And your father answered and said, I fear lest Yah be wroth with me. And I said to him, Fear not, for as soon as you eat, you shall know good and evil. And speedily I persuaded him, and he ate straightway, and his eyes were opened, And he too knew his nakedness. And he said to me, O wicked woman, what have you done that you have deprived me of my glory to Yahawah? And in that same hour, we heard the archangel Michael blowing his shofar. Well, what a tale. There's a few lines in there that allude to perhaps an act. I'm not going to deny that. It is there. Let's turn to... But I will state that it's perhaps an act. Let's turn to Jasher. I have books flying everywhere in here. Jasher 1. Before we get to that, I would like to discuss the terms that have been so changed or discussed as being changed. It has been stated to eat is actually to fornicate. Well, I can't find this in Scripture, personally. But I can find it in what is the so-called rabbinic targums. Now, if you'd like to look that up, that is your walk. But we'll get to that as well. Now let's turn to Jasher. Chapter 1. Let's take a ride at 7 through 14. And Yahweh, Elohim, took Adam and his woman, and he placed them in the garden to dress it and to guard it. And he commanded them, and said to them, From every tree of the garden you may eat, but from the tree of knowledge of good and evil you shall not eat. For in that day that you eat thereof, you shall surely die. And when Elohim had blessed and commanded them, he went from them. And Adam and his woman dwelt in the garden according to the command which Yahweh had commanded them. And the serpent, the Nahash, which Elohim had created with them in the earth, came to them to incite them to transgress. And the serpent enticed and persuaded the woman to eat of the tree of knowledge. And the woman hearkened to the voice of the serpent. And she transgressed the word of Yahweh, and took from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And she ate. And she took from it, and gave also to her man, and he ate. And Adam, his woman, transgressed the command of Elohim which he commanded them. And Elohim knew it, and his anger was kindled against them, and he cursed them. And Yahweh Elohim drove them that day from the garden, to till the ground from which they were taken. And they went and dwelt to the east of the Garden of Eden. And Adam knew his woman, Hua. She bore 2 sons and 3 daughters. And he called the name of the first one Cain, saying, I have obtained a man from Yahweh. And the name of the other she called Abel. For she said, In vanity we have come into the earth, and in vanity we shall be taken from it. And the boys grew up, and their father gave them possession in the land. And Cain was a tiller of the ground, and Havel was a keeper of sheep. So, let's turn over again. If you catch what I'm doing, I'm giving lots of witnesses for this account, okay? As many as I can find. Scripturally speaking. Notes, Brian, notes. Genesis 4, 1 and 2. And Adam knew Yahawah, his wife, and she conceived, and bore Cain, and said, I have gained a man, Yahawah. And again, she gave birth to his brother, Havel, and Havel became a keeper of sheep, but Cain became a tiller of the ground. Okay, so I need to jump to what the theory is here. I'll cut to the chase. Eve, Yahawah, ate, fornicated with Satan. And that is what bore Cain. I don't personally believe this. And this is this upcoming verse is what kind of knocks it out of the park for me. Let's turn to Jubilees. Now, I know a lot of us don't particularly like Jubilees, Jubileem, because there are some verses that have said to be tampered with. Some. Where are we at? Jubilees 3, 28 through chapter 4, verse 1. And on that day, which Adam went forth from the garden, he offered as a sweet savor of an offering frankincense, gabnum, and stach, and spices in the morning, with the rising of the sun, from the day when he covered his shame. And on that day was closed the mouth of all beasts, and of cattle, and of birds, and whatsoever walks, and whatsoever moves, so that they could no longer speak. For they had all spoken one with another, and one lip with one tongue. And he sent out of the garden of Eden all flesh that was in the garden of Eden, and all flesh was scattered according to its kinds, according to its types, unto the place which it had been created for them. And to Adam alone did he give the wherewithal to cover his shame of all the beasts and cattle. And on this account it is prescribed on the heavenly tablets, as touching all those who know the judgment of the Torah, that they should cover their shame, and should not uncover themselves as the other nations uncover themselves. And on the new moon of the 4th month, Adam and his woman went forth from the garden, and they dwelt in the land of Eldah, in the land of their creation. And Elam called the name of his woman Hua. Now here's the line. And they had no son until the first Jubilee. And after this he knew her. Now he tilled the land, as had been instructed in the Garden of Eden. And in the 3rd week of the 2nd Jubilee, she gave birth to Cain. And in the 4th, she gave birth to Abel. And in the 5th, she gave birth to her daughter, Ewan. Okay. Well, so there's some timestamps there. Thoughts. The time of the birth of Cain. Now, if lovely Mr. Satan actually had his way with Eve, ladies and gentlemen, fathers, dads, mothers, how long does it take from conception to birth? 9 months, right? Some are 8, but I get it. Okay, but 9 months. So, we know that the length of time of a Jubilee is, some have speculated it's 49, but most scholarly consensus says it's 50 years. Cain wasn't born till the 2nd Jubilee. Let's just say it's 50 years after they got kicked out of the garden. If that lovely act happened in the garden, well, 9 months later you would have Cain, not 50 years later. But per the script, him and Abel were 50 years later. What else? I have a few other notes. If Satan actually was with Eve, well, who is Satan? He's an angel, right? Some call him Lucifer. Some call him, well, we're not supposed to say these names, but Father, forgive me, I'm teaching. Gadriel. If an angel has his way with a human, what do you get in chapter 6 of Genesis? You get a Nephilim, don't we? Okay. Now, if we also read in Jasher, of Jasher 3, in the story of Hanoch, all the world was at peace during his time. Well, this account is way before the birth of Hanoch, which all the world was at peace. There was no Nephilim during that time. So, if Satan and Eve got together to produce Cain, Cain would have been a Nephilim, which you cannot have in the book of Jasher during that time. Now, Brian, hold on, man. The book of Jasher is not scripture. It's not in the canon of the 66. What are you talking about? I beg to differ. Yahshua is in the canon. It's quoted in the book of Joshua, Yahushuo 10:13. Now I realize it's not in the Septuagint. Regardless, it's mentioned as well in 2 Samuel 1:18, and as well in the New Testament, 2 Timothy 3:8. It is in the canon. Now, if these inspired books of Scripture make mention of another book that they're almost quoting out of, is it not worth a read? I'll let you walk your walk. That's okay. So, if the seed is not a serpent, if we jump back to Genesis. Genesis 3:14-15. And Yahweh Elohim said to the Nahash, the serpent, because you have done this, you are cursed more than all the livestock and more than every beast of the field. On your belly you are to go, and you are to eat dust all the days of your life. And I will put enmity between you and the woman, and between your seed and her seed. And he shall crush your head, and you shall crush his heel. I will put enmity between your seed and her seed. Well, Yah talks to Abraham and says, I will increase your seed as the sands of the seashore. And in the New Testament, he states that he is of the seed of Abraham. Well, the seed, that alludes to the belief of a seed is lineage. Right? Okay, that's a fair. But if it's not the seed, what is this seed? Well, a farmer sows seeds. A minister sows seeds of faith. I think the devil, Satan, sows seeds of doubt, too. Anyways, hey now. Let's turn over to. You know what? I'm gonna use this old KJV for a second. Revelation 12. Here's on. Now there's a war going on. A war of many ages. And there was a war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon. And the dragon fought and his angels, and prevailed not. Neither was there any place found any more in heaven. And the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent, called the devil, and Satan, which deceived the whole world. He was cast out onto the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. Well, let's move down a bit. in verse 14. And to the woman were given 2 wings of a great eagle, that she might fly into the darkness, into her place, where she is nourished for a time, and times, and half a time, from the face of the serpent. And the serpent cast out of his mouth water as a flood after the woman, that he might cause her to be carried away of the flood. And the earth helped the woman, and the earth opened her mouth and swallowed up the flood which the dragon cast out of his mouth. And the dragon was wroth with the woman, and he went to make war with the remnant of her seed, which keep the commandments of Yah, and have the testimony of Yahushuo Ha'Mashiach. Now, that is a war of good and evil. The dragon has his seeds of doubt. And the woman and her remnant have the seeds of faith and truth. That sparks war, enmity. From the conception of time. Let's go to Matthew. Matthew 14. 25. 31. And in the 4th watch of the night, Yahushuo went to them, walking on the sea. And when the taught ones saw him walking on the sea, they were troubled, saying, "It's a phantom." And from fear they cried, but immediately Yahushuo spoke to them, saying, "Take courage. It is I. Do not be afraid." And Kepha answered him, Peter, and said, "Master, if it is you, command me to come to you on the water." And he said, "Come." And when Kepha had come down out of the boat, he walked on the water to go to Yahushuo. But when he saw that the wind was strong, he was afraid. He doubted and began to sink. And he cried out, saying, "Master, save me!" And immediately Yahushuo stretched out his hands and took hold of him. And he said to him, "O you of little faith, why do you doubt?" Luke 17. And the emissaries said to the master, "Give us more belief." And the master said, "If you have belief as a mustard seed, you would say to this mulberry tree, 'Be pulled up by the roots and be planted in the sea,' and it would obey you." Let's turn back to Matthew 13. (31 and 32). Another parable he put them, saying, "The reign of the heavens is like a mustard seed, which a man took and sowed in his field. which indeed is less than all the seeds. But when it is grown, it is greater than the plants and becomes a tree, so that the birds of the heaven come down in its branches. So something's planted, and it grows. Whether that be a seed of truth or a seed of doubt. Matthew, again, 17. Let's go 14 to 21. And when they came to the crowd, a man came up to him, kneeling down to him and saying, Master, have compassion on my son, for he is an epileptic and suffers badly, for he often falls into the fire and often into the water. And I brought him to your taught ones, but they were unable to heal him. And Yahushuo, answering, said, O generation, unbelieving and perverted, how long shall I be with you? How long shall I put up with you? Bring him here to me. And Yahushuo rebuked the demon, and it came out of him, and the child was healed in that hour. Then the taught ones came to Yahushuo by himself and said, Why were we unable to cast him out? And Yahushuo said to them, It's because of your unbelief. For truly I say to you, if you have belief as a mustard seed, you shall say to this mountain, Move from here to there, and it shall move. And no matter shall be impossible for you. But this kind does not go out except through fasting and prayer. So, it wasn't... All right. It wasn't that they didn't believe in him. No, far from the case. They had all the belief in the world for him. They obviously doubted in themselves. They had doubt. Doubt is a lie. Doubt is the other side of the enmity between the truth and the lie. So, I will put enmity between the two seeds. Seeds of doubt and lies. And the seeds of faith and truth. Let's read John 8. One more time. I haven't read this one in a while. John 8, 30 to 32. And he was speaking these words. Many believed in him. So Yahushuo said to those Yahuthim, who believed in him. If you stay in my word, you are truly my taught ones. And you shall know the truth. And the truth, well, the truth shall set you free. Free from the war. Free from the enmity. Free from the devil, who is deceiving all the world. This is Let There Be Light. My name's Brian. Much love. Stay vigilant. Stay awake. Fight the good fight. Shalom be with you.